Hi everybody. So it's been a while since I've posted anything on this channel. It's been actually nearly 2 months, and that's mainly because I've had very busy things going on in my personal life that has distracted me, and I just haven't had the energy or the drive to do some videos. So there's a lot of stuff that I wish I could go over. Some of it I'm going to mash together in some other videos where I'm going to put several things together and review them all at once. Some things I'm just going to have to skip out on the actual review for, like a lot of the Oscar movies that I would love to do reviews for, like 1917 and Uncut Gems and Little Women. I would love to do reviews for those, but I just don't have the time, and I think it's a little late to do that. But one video I've wanted to do for a while now that I originally had planned to release at the end of January, which obviously did not happen, so a little over a month, around a month and a half late of its initial release date, but I still want to do this video. Unfortunately, it's not going to be as complicated of editing as my last listed video, just because I don't have the time, because I have a lot of other videos I'm wanting to do in this sitting today, basically. But here's my list for the top 15 best movies of 2019. Coming in at number 15, we have Rocketman, which of course is the biopic about Elton John, which kind of had a mixture of musical fantasy mixed with real life, and it was a lot of fun. I think Taron Egerton was amazing in it. Still think that he should have gotten an Oscar nomination in there, which my last video talked about a little bit, but I think it's a good movie. Everybody should check it out. At number 14, we have Booksmart. One of the most surprising movies of the year. Olivia Wilde's directorial debut is a surprisingly fresh take on teenage comedies, and is a new generation's Superbad, basically. Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein are hilarious in this movie. I recommend it to everybody. I'm going to recommend all these movies to everybody, but it's an incredibly fun movie. Definitely check it out. Number 13, we have Midsommar. Midsommar is Ari Aster's second movie in his filmography so far, and he's proving to be one of my favorite horror filmmakers possibly ever. I think that this movie delivers on such amazing tension and just paranoia and all that, and I also think that Florence Pugh as the lead was one of the best performances of the year. Really should not have been overlooked, but it was. Midsommar is creepy and amazing at the same time, so definitely check it out. Number 12, we have Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems is easily one of the most tense movies I've sat through in the theaters in a while. I found this to be much better, in my opinion, than the Safdie brothers' last movie, Good Time. I still think that's a good movie. I think this is a significant improvement. I love this trajectory they're putting themselves on. Adam Sandler gives probably his best performance in this movie as Howie. This movie is fantastic. I can't wait to buy it at some point. I highly recommend anybody go see it. Yeah, this movie has a mixture of like weird dark comedy and just drama and great tension, and is, like I said, one of the best thrillers I think to come out in a while. At number 11, we have Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame is kind of self-explanatory. It's actually the first movie review I did on this channel. It's an amazing event that delivers on a culmination of a 20-movie arc that I found to be incredibly entertaining It's one of the most satisfying endings to to a storyline for a franchise that we had last year. Probably the most satisfying in comparison to some other franchises. It's a movie I'm going to watch over and over again in the years to come. Avengers Endgame is number 11. At number 10, we have The Farewell. Breakthrough director Lulu Wang wrote and directed this movie and based some of it off of her personal life, with Awkwafina, of course, in her role. I think that this is an incredibly poignant family drama that everybody deserves to experience at some point. I also think Awkwafina deserved to get an Oscar nomination. It's still one of my biggest gripes with this past Oscar season. But The Farewell is an incredibly well done movie. At number 9, we have 1917. Sam Mendes directed this World War I war epic that is a technical masterpiece in a way, in that the way that it's shot and the way that every technical aspect of it is done, of course, with Roger Deakins as a cinematographer and Mendes directing it, and just the way that scenes are set up is incredible to watch. But what takes it to the next level for me is that they actually put some fairly good characterization and actual character development and story in the characters, which and I feel like this is kind of a combination of previous movies such as like The Revenant and Dunkirk, and I think that they did something that Dunkirk was lacking in, which brings this movie up for me quite a bit, and that's the characterization that they do in this story is very entertaining. It's very tense. It's very, very well done. I do think that this is one of Sam Mendes' best movies, and probably the best performance I've seen from George McKay in the lead. At number 8, we have The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is one of the weirdest movies I've seen from this year. Some people do not like the movie because of how strange it is, even though it's kind of more mainstream for a movie like that. But I find Robert Eggers to be one of the most unique filmmakers that has come to prominence in the last couple of years, with The Witch being a very strange horror movie and The Lighthouse being a very strange thriller or something. I found it very entertaining, very well shot, very well directed. It's a very interesting screenplay. But one thing that holds this movie together is the two main performances from Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe are some of their best work. It's probably the best work I've seen from Robert Pattinson. It's easily some of the best work I've seen from Willem Dafoe. I think that they are both amazing in their roles. This is a movie that will have people arguing for a while and what its actual meaning is, but I think that it was at least straightforward enough where it wasn't too confusing to keep track of what was going on, but still ambiguous enough to make people contemplate what the actual meaning and metaphors and everything for the movie really is in the long run. At number 7, we have Knives Out. As I said in my review for it, this movie is a ton of fun. Rian Johnson does an amazing job with the script. Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas especially are really good in it. The cast is overall pretty amazing, and there just hasn't been a whodunit like this that has been this much fun in years. At number 6, we have Little Women. Little Women is Greta Gerwig's second movie and is an adaptation, of course, of the original book, and is by far my favorite adaptation I've seen of the book, because I've seen, I think, 2 other versions adapted for the screen that I wasn't a huge fan of. Gerwig's writing especially does an amazing job of bringing out the warmth and the true humanity of these characters, and the and the performances are really, really good in this movie. Saoirse Ronan as the lead, of course, is still very, very, very good. Once again, I think Florence Pugh kind of knocks it out of the park as Amy. And then another notable performance is Chris Cooper, and them not making him a bad guy in this movie was a very refreshing thing to see for him as an actor. He actually plays a very warm, grandfatherly character and all that. But I think Little Women is the best adaptation I've seen of the story, and I honestly don't see anybody doing better than this version of it for a long time. Number 5 is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Now, this is the most recent movie I've seen because it is incredibly hard to get a hold of where I live within the United States, but I was blown away by this movie. The direction is pretty much immaculate. Celine Sciamma, I'm sorry if I said her name incorrectly, has like some of the best visual storytelling I've seen in a while, and it's also one of the most believable relationships I've ever seen on screen between the two leads, where the sexual and romantic tension between them is palpable from the first time they're seen on screen together. They do an amazing job. I think this movie is just astounding. I really hope it gets more recognition this year than it did last year, because it's kind of weird on its release date, but it obviously is one of my favorite movies of the year. And number 4, we have Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit is a movie that is delightful in some ways and just emotionally draining in others. And the main thing with this movie is that Taika Waititi's heart shines through this movie so much that the gripes I have with it, the problems I have with it, are overshadowed by how much heart goes into this movie. Once again, I think that the leads are amazing. It's one of the best child performances of the year and probably of the decade. Thomasin McKenzie is proving herself to be one of the best young actresses coming up in this generation. And even Scarlett Johansson does a great job along with the rest of the supporting cast. But Jojo Rabbit is a movie that I'm going to hold near and dear to my heart for a while. And number 3, we have The Irishman. The Irishman, of course, is directed by Martin Scorsese, and it's something different from Scorsese than I think everybody expected. It's, of course, a long movie, but this story about Jimmy Hoffa and his eventual disappearance is one of the most interesting I've seen on screen in years. I think that this is the best performances that we've gotten from the older leads with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. It's easily their best performances probably of the decade. It's kind of weird to say that for Pesci because he's only been in 2 movies, including this one, but still he is amazing in this movie. I have to give it up to Steve Zalian. He does an amazing job with the script, and it's something very different from Scorsese because it takes 2 of his biggest themes with the mobster crime drama and the religious contemplation and puts it together, where the last 30 minutes of this movie are some of the most existential filmmaking I've seen Scorsese put to screen, which is something that I was incredibly impressed seeing this year. Number 2, we have Marriage Story. Marriage Story is written and directed by Noah Baumbach, and for me is easily his best movie. It's one of the most realistic depictions of divorce and love lost and just and a failed relationship and all that. put together in a very, very realistic script and dialogue, and then the performances take it to a whole nother level with Scarlett Johansson doing an amazing job, along with Laura Dern and Alan Alda especially. But the highlight is easily Adam Driver as Charlie. Is the best performance from last year in my opinion. I think it's obviously it's going to be the best performance that Adam Driver has given so far. He does such an amazing job of feeling realistic and raw and just there as an actor that I'm so impressed with this movie on so many levels, that it's one that cut me much closer to home than I expected to ever get. And that's why Marriage Story was nearly my favorite movie of the year. And before I get to my number one, I wanted to go over some of my honorable mentions, and here they are. Us, Toy Story 4, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker, Dr. Sleep, Klaus, Just Mercy, El Camino, and Honey Boy. And coming in at number one, we have the movie that I should have given a 10 out of 10 the first time I reviewed it, but I was just being stingy and stupid, and it's just getting better the farther I go along, and has gotten the recognition I never expected it to, but I am so happy and so proud of this movie, and that is Parasite. Parasite is easily one of the best movies of the decade, if not arguably possibly even the best movie of the decade. It is immaculately written. Bong Joon-ho is at his absolute best with this movie as a director. Everything is just so sharp and just so well done, so well edited, everything so well acted. These actors should have gotten more recognition for their performances, and they didn't. But people recognize that that cast was great, which is an amazing thing. And it's the first movie where my favorite movie of the year won Best Picture, and I was so happy about that because it's the first time they got it right, and it makes up for Green Book winning last year. But I am an incredibly big fan of this movie. I can't even really delve into why I love this movie other than the surface level things I just talked about. If you haven't seen the movie, see it. I mean, at this point, it's probably just because you don't want to read the subtitles or whatever, because this movie is obviously been super popular around awards season, and I'm so happy with the recognition it's gotten. And it's easily my favorite movie from last year. Just an astounding movie all around. Amazing story. Definitely check it out. And that was my top 15 best movies of 2019, coming to you in almost the middle of March of the next year. But I still did it at some point, so I have to get a little bit of credit for that. But let me know what you thought. Share with me what your favorite movies of the year were. Let me know, and I'll be back with another video.